Welcome on board, chosen one. So, they said you changed, huh? They said you got different. Funny how the same mouths that used to laugh at your silence are now whispering your name like it's a secret too dangerous to say out loud. The ones who used to roll their eyes when you spoke are now studying your every move, pretending not to care while watching from fake accounts. When they said you were too quiet, what they really meant was, you make me uncomfortable because you see too much. The quietest one in the room is often the one who already knows how the story ends. Let's not sugarcoat it. These people weren't just underestimating you. They were trying to erase you, smiling in your face, plotting behind your back, hoping your silence meant surrender. But your silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. You were watching, measuring, calculating. You were letting their words dig their own graves. And now, the storm is here, and suddenly everyone's pretending they never doubted you. Press that like button, chosen one. Subscribe, not as some YouTuber move, but as a signal, a ripple, a code that tells the system you're part of something bigger. Every click spreads this message further. It tells the algorithm, no, the universe, that you're awake, that you see through it all, that the chosen ones are done hiding. You've always felt it, that weird pull, that heavy awareness that no one else seemed to carry. The way you could feel tension before a word was spoken, the way you could sense when people's smiles weren't real. You thought it was paranoia, it was perception. You thought it was anxiety, it was accuracy. You've always been 2 steps ahead, even when you were at your lowest. And that's what they can't stand. Not your looks, not your success. It's your knowing. You make people nervous without saying a word. Your presence reveals what they're trying to hide. It's not magic, it's energy. Your energy makes their lies tremble because it doesn't align with deceit. You don't expose them by force. They expose themselves by proximity. You are not the threat. You are the truth, and the truth burns fragile egos alive. Remember when they mocked you for seeing patterns no one else noticed, for reading people too easily? They called you dramatic, paranoid, sensitive, anything to make you doubt yourself. But while they were posting fake smiles and chasing clout, you were studying reality. You saw the cracks in their perfect facades. You decoded their masks before they even realized they were wearing one. You were never delusional. You were tuned in. They knew it too. That's why they tried to isolate you, label you, silence you, because chosen ones don't follow the script. They rewrite it. You were the one they couldn't control, the variable that refused to play by their system's rules. Every move they made to put you in your place only revealed their own fear of being exposed. They thought they were peeling away your power. But all they did was peel away their own masks, layer by layer, until their truth stared back at them, ugly, raw, and terrified. That's the thing about being chosen. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, it's heavy. It's a frequency that doesn't fit into shallow spaces. People can feel it when you walk in, even if you don't say a word. You don't try to command the room. You just do. You could be standing in the back, silent, detached, and yet everyone's attention bends toward you like gravity. That's not intimidation, that's disruption. You're the glitch their illusions can't handle. So if they're talking about you, good. If they're uncomfortable, perfect. That means your energy's working. You're shaking fake worlds built on weak foundations. The universe doesn't make chosen ones loud. It makes them undeniable. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to reveal what's broken, to make lies crumble, to force people to confront themselves. And here's the truth that'll haunt them. You didn't ruin them. Their own reflection did. You were just the mirror. That's the punishment of betraying a chosen one. The universe doesn't need revenge. It just rewinds the tape and lets the truth play out, slowly, publicly, painfully. So when they look at you now, all calm, all composed, still standing after everything, it eats them alive. Because deep down, they know. They weren't just fighting you, they were fighting something far bigger. Something that moves through you. And now that they've lost, they pretend they never played the game. Chosen one, this is your era of silence and impact. You don't need to prove a thing, you are the proof. Keep walking like you know the ending, because you do. And hey, chosen one, yeah, you, the one they can't stop whispering about. You feel it too, don't you? That strange tension in the air every time your name comes up. They act casual, but their voices crack when they talk about you. They sense you know more than you ever let on, and it drives them insane. So here's the deal. Stay right here. Don't scroll, don't blink. What's coming next will explain exactly why their curiosity about you isn't random. It's instinct. Drop the number 777 in the comments if you've ever felt that eerie silence when you walk into a room, not because you're invisible, but because they feel your awareness before you even speak. This is where we start peeling back the layers, step by step, exposing the real reason they can't stop talking about you. Trust me, if you're truly one of the chosen, you'll feel that pull to stay till the very end, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. You're about to understand exactly what kind of power you've been carrying all along. Now let's get into it and watch how every truth hits a little too close to home. Number 1. They struck a match and forgot who invented fire. Never mistake silence for surrender. Sometimes it's just the sound of strategy loading. They really thought they could play you, thought you were the harmless one in the corner, the nice one who'd sit there and take it. They laughed, talked behind your back, convinced themselves you'd never bite back because you were too quiet, too calm, too composed. But what they never understood is that calm doesn't mean weak. It means calculating. You were never sleeping, you were studying. You let them build their little illusions, stack their lies, and dance around in their own arrogance, waiting for the moment their masks would slip. And now, that moment's here. You see, they never realized the quiet ones don't need to shout to be heard. They shift reality just by existing. While they were busy performing, you were learning the script, line by line, until you could recite their moves before they even made them. You became their unspoken nightmare, the proof that not all power is loud, and not all storms announce themselves. You moved like smoke, unseen, unbothered, but everywhere. And now that smoke is fire, and they're choking on the ashes of their own games, they said you changed. No, you evolved. You stopped entertaining nonsense, and suddenly that felt like arrogance to people who were used to your compliance. They confused your silence for ignorance and your distance for defeat. They thought you were easy to replace, but now they can't stop comparing everyone to you. You became their reference point, the one they can't replicate. Every time they speak your name, it carries regret disguised as resentment. What's funny is, they thought they were outsmarting you, but you were just letting them reveal themselves. You watched every move, every fake smile, every subtle dig, every half-hearted apology, and you turned it all into data. You built an entire map of their behavior, and now you navigate life without them while they're still trying to figure out what went wrong. Spoiler, they did. You were never playing their game. You were building the board. You weren't trying to win. You were setting the rules. And now they're realizing too late that they were pawns in a match you designed. That's why they can't sleep. That's why your name haunts their peace. Because somewhere in their gut they know They tried to wound someone who doesn't bleed the way they do. Chosen ones like you don't retaliate with noise. You let time and truth do the work. You stay aligned, and alignment always exposes frauds. They call it karma, but it's just consequence with perfect timing. The universe doesn't forget who's genuine. Every betrayal against you became a signature on their own downfall. You don't need revenge. Your existence is revenge enough. Watching you rise, unbothered, unmatched, unstoppable, is the punishment. They keep your name alive because silence kills them. You live rent-free in their heads, and they pay interest in paranoia. Every success of yours echoes in their insecurities. Every calm move you make reminds them how loud their desperation sounds. That's what true power looks like. Quiet, consistent, inevitable. And no, you didn't imagine their energy shift, that tension when you walk in, that uneasy shuffle, that fake laugh. That's their spirit recognizing what their ego denies. You expose people just by being yourself. You make dishonesty sweat. That's why they avoid your eyes. Your gaze is too honest for their comfort. You don't call out lies, you make them crumble. They told you you're too intense, too deep, too much. That's what mediocrity says when faced with someone it can't dilute. You see patterns, energy, motives, things they can't admit even to themselves. You were built for awareness, not approval, and that's exactly what terrifies them, because you know more than you let on, and you let on just enough to keep them guessing. Now look around. The ones who mocked your intuition, they're falling apart, tripping over the very traps they set for you. The ones who tried to frame you as the problem, they're stuck explaining stories that no one believes anymore. That's how the universe works for the chosen. It doesn't announce justice, it delivers it quietly. You're not just ahead of them, you're beyond them. You outgrew their frequency. They're still gossiping in circles while you're building galaxies. That's why they call you mysterious, because they can't track your evolution. They don't understand it, so they label it. But you've stopped existing for their understanding. You exist for truth, for purpose, for impact. They tried to throw dirt on your name, didn't realize you were the soil everything grows from. They tried to dim your light, forgot that you are the current, not the bulb. They tried to break you, and instead built your legend. Every attempt to weaken you only trained your strength. Every insult was a free advertisement for your power. They'll keep whispering about you. Let them. Every whisper is a confession, every rumor a reflection, because deep down they know they were never your equals. You were never in competition. You were a category they couldn't enter, and that's the real reason they can't stop talking. They're still trying to understand how the story flipped without their permission. So walk forward with that villain calm. Let your silence hum like a warning. The ones who betrayed you already hear the echo of what's coming, not from you, but from the universe rearranging everything in your favor. Don't chase validation. Don't explain. The loudest revenge is peace that looks effortless. You are not what they said you were. You're what they feared you'd become, and now you are. You're the flame they mocked until it burned down their illusions. They played with fire and learned too late. You were the fire all along. Number 2. When the stars move, you don't chase, you align. Call it coincidence if it comforts you, but deep down, everyone knows destiny doesn't miss its target twice. They keep calling it luck because that's easier than admitting you were right. It's easier than facing the fact that every time they tried to block your path, the universe simply redrew the map. Imagine this. Someone spends months building walls around you, thinking they've trapped you, only to realize they accidentally built a fortress for your protection. That's what alignment looks like. It's not random, it's poetic. Every betrayal, Every delay, every loss was choreography, and you were the lead. They're obsessed with explaining your rise. Oh, they just got lucky. Right place, right time. Yeah, sure. Keep telling yourselves that while everything keeps turning in your favor without you breaking a sweat. You don't stumble into alignment. You earn it. Through patience, silence, and the kind of discipline no one gives credit for until it's too late. You know what they'll never understand, that you didn't fight for control, you surrendered it. You stopped chasing what wasn't flowing toward you and started listening to what was. And suddenly, everything that used to feel forced began to fall into place, like it was waiting for your permission. That's not luck. That's intelligence on a cosmic level. That's what happens when you stop begging for timing and start becoming timing. You can't outplan someone who moves with the rhythm of the universe. Think about it. How many times did you almost lose everything only for something invisible to pull you back at the last second? How many times did you think, that's it, I'm done, just to find out the situation flipped in your favor overnight? Those weren't coincidences. Those were checkpoints. Proof that no matter how bad it looked, you were never off the path. You were just being redirected. The universe doesn't waste alignment on people who still beg for validation. It reserves it for those who can stay still while everything around them is falling apart. You became that person. While they were panicking, you were trusting. While they were forcing outcomes, you were adjusting your energy. And that's the difference. You were never competing. You were coexisting with destiny. They don't get how you always know things before they happen. The way you pull away from people right before their masks crack, or how you can feel when something's about to shift. They call it paranoia because they can't comprehend precision. What they don't realize is that the universe whispers warnings to those it favors. You don't guess, you sense. You don't wait for signs. You are the sign. Imagine this, a storm's about to hit, and while everyone else is running for cover, you're already miles away, calm, safe, detached. They call that coincidence. You call that alignment. Because chosen ones don't predict the weather. They feel it in their bones. You weren't lucky. You were listened to. It eats them alive. The ones who mocked you, tried to block you, whispered that you'd never recover. Now they're watching you win by not even trying. Nothing humbles an ego faster than seeing someone rise through peace instead of chaos. You didn't chase, beg, or force. You flowed. You let energy lead, and energy never lies. You mastered the art of not reacting, and in return, the universe started reacting to you. You ever wonder why people who used to talk down to you suddenly move differently now? Why the ones who doubted you can't meet your eyes anymore? It's because alignment exposes hierarchy. The same ones who saw you as competition now realize they were just a subplot in your story. They see it now. Every time they threw shade, you grew roots. Every time they shut a door, you built a better one. That's not luck. That's the universe keeping receipts. They tried to bury you, not knowing you were a seed calibrated to bloom in their shadow. Every delay, every rejection, every silent season you endured, that was alignment in disguise. The universe was never punishing you. It was positioning you. You weren't being left behind. You were being pulled aside for refinement. You don't rise because you're lucky. You rise because you listen. Because you stopped needing proof and started becoming it. People can fake confidence, but they can't fake flow. And you're in flow now. You've stopped overthinking timing, and suddenly everything's on time. You've stopped asking for signs, and now life keeps sending confirmations. You've stopped searching for why, and somehow everything makes sense. They'll never admit it, but it rattles them. How do you explain someone who always lands on their feet, How do you explain the kind of protection that feels supernatural but is completely earned? They call it mystery because they can't label what they can't control. But deep down, they know the universe has favorites, and it doesn't hide them forever. You've felt it too, that eerie sense of being watched, but not by people, by destiny itself. Every step, every decision, every coincidence was part of a larger pattern designed around you. And it's not arrogance to accept that, it's awareness. The moment you stop denying your own alignment, you stop dimming for those still lost in the fog. Imagine this, a chessboard where every move they make against you somehow strengthens your position. You don't need to see 5 moves ahead because you are 5 moves ahead. You're not reacting to life anymore. Life's reacting to you. That's the shift. That's the frequency of the chosen. They think you walk alone, but they don't realize the universe walks with you, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Let them call it luck. Let them pretend your rise doesn't bother them. But when their plans fall apart and yours unfold flawlessly, the truth gets harder to ignore. The universe doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't misplace people. It doesn't forget who endured in silence. Every time you held your tongue, every time you stayed calm instead of clapping back, you were building momentum. And now that momentum is unstoppable. You've become the living example of what happens when alignment meets patience, when grace meets grit. You don't move fast, you move right. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you belong. They can't replicate that. They can copy your look, your words, your moves, but they can't copy your energy. Because your alignment wasn't learned, it was earned through battles they never saw, through nights they never stayed awake for, through faith they never developed. So let them talk, let them guess, let them explain it away as coincidence, because the truth is, they're not supposed to understand it. They weren't built for this level of synchronization. You were. You're not running on luck. You're running on law. Universal law, cause, effect, timing, precision. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do, becoming exactly who you were meant to become. They call that coincidence because calling it destiny would mean admitting they were never in control. And that's the real reason they can't stop watching. Because deep down, they know you're not chasing alignment. You are alignment. Number 3. Your silence shook their entire script. You didn't have to expose them. Your peace did. They never feared your words. They feared your quiet, because your silence wasn't empty. It was loaded. You didn't yell, accuse, or perform. You just stood there, steady and unshaken, while every false story they built around you began to collapse under its own lies. You were the calm after their chaos, and that calm was deafening. They screamed for attention. You breathed, and somehow that silence echoed louder than all their noise combined. Imagine this. They expected fireworks from you, but instead they got an earthquake. No warning, no sound, just a shift so deep it cracked their foundations. They called you cold when you went quiet, but it wasn't coldness. It was control. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. That's when your energy started speaking louder than your voice ever could. You became the storm they never saw coming, the one that didn't destroy, just revealed. They still replay your silence like it's evidence, wondering when you found out, how much you know, if you'll ever speak, but you won't, because you don't need to. The universe already translated your silence into consequences. You didn't lose your voice, you weaponized it. And now, every quiet step you take rattles the world that tried to bury you. Number 4. You move like the ocean, calm, untamed, and inevitable. You don't fight the storm, you become the tide that swallows it whole. They were waiting for your collapse like it was a show. They checked in not out of concern, but curiosity. They wanted to witness your breaking point. They thought the chaos would finally humble you. But when the world started shaking, you didn't. When they panicked, you adjusted your crown. That silence, that stillness, it unnerved them more than any outburst ever could. Because while they screamed for control, you became control. Imagine this, waves crashing, wind roaring, and there you are, still, not frozen, not fragile, centered. That's what breaks them. They feed on noise. You thrive in calm. They force outcomes. You attract precision. You've stopped explaining your peace to people addicted to panic, because peace, when mastered, is the most terrifying weapon in existence. While they fight the current, you are the current. You didn't dodge chaos, you surfed it. Every disaster they prayed would drown you only pushed you deeper into alignment. You didn't chase power, you flowed into it. And that flow, it's divine efficiency. You don't react because you already know. You've seen the game from above. You're not lucky. You're locked in. Let them panic. Let them gossip. You're not here to prove you're calm. You're here to embody it. You move like the tide, unseen, unstoppable, and inevitable. Number 5. They tried to copy you, but you're the source code. You can study the formula all you want, but if you weren't built in the fire, you'll never burn the same. They've turned your success into a case study, zooming in, analyzing, whispering, trying to figure out how you did it. But here's the plot twist. You are the method. You didn't follow steps. You became the standard. Every move you make rewrites their logic because your rise wasn't built on shortcuts. It was built on scars, solitude, and consistency no one clapped for. They call it a glow-up. You call it evidence. Every ounce of discipline you buried in the dark is showing in daylight now. They watched you like it was sudden, but nothing about you happened overnight. You were the blueprint long before they knew how to read it. They can copy your style, but they can't download your story. They mimic your words, your timing, your peace, but imitation can't replicate frequency. You're encrypted. Every betrayal, every comeback, every night you rebuilt your mind has been encoded into your aura. They're decoding patterns while you're writing new ones. Let them analyze forever. They'll never solve what wasn't meant to be understood. You can't hack evolution. You are the update. Number 6. They called you quiet, not realizing you were hearing the universe load the next move. Silence isn't the absence of noise. It's the sound of clarity turning its volume up. You weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. You were quiet because you were listening to what others couldn't hear. They called it detachment, but you were downloading data straight from the energy field, catching every tone, every twitch, every fake laugh they thought passed unnoticed. While they talked over truth, you were decoding it. You were tuned in to frequencies their minds can't even register. Imagine this, a radio tuned perfectly to a channel no one else can hear. To them, it's static. To you, it's symphony. That's how you've always lived. You were reading entire stories in people's pauses, catching betrayal in body language, and detecting motives in microseconds. That's not overthinking. That's observation refined into weaponry. You don't need to raise your voice when your silence already rearranges rooms. They confuse calm with weakness, but peace like yours is earned, not borrowed. You face the noise inside yourself, so no external chaos can touch you. That's why they whisper. They can feel you picking up the signals their own guilt sends out. You don't expose them, their energy does. Keep that stillness. You're not quiet, you're calibrated, and the world trembles when you listen. Number 7. You didn't fade. You just started speaking a language their energy can't translate. You didn't disappear. You just stopped performing for people who mistake chaos for connection. They call it vanishing because they can't comprehend peace without performance. You didn't go missing. You rose. You stopped shouting over static, and suddenly their world went silent. Your absence became their echo chamber. Every rumor they start is just an admission that they can't handle the version of you that no longer needs their validation. They miss access, not you. Imagine this: a jet taking off while the crowd below keeps arguing about whether it can fly. That's you. While they gossip in the dust, you're already halfway to the stars. You didn't ghost them. You just upgraded to a frequency that their insecurities can't breathe in. You moved from explaining to executing, from waiting to witnessing, from reacting to rising. Your silence didn't kill the noise, it outgrew it. They're restless now, filling group chats with theories because it hurts to admit you're thriving without them. But every time they mention your name, it's proof you're still the gravity pulling their attention. You're not revenge, you're evolution. The quiet glow that comes from outgrowing the need to prove you're glowing. Number 8. They built a cage and you turned it into a kingdom. They wanted to contain you. Instead, they constructed your throne. They really thought the walls they built would hold you, thought if they cornered you, restricted you, made the room smaller, you'd eventually fold under pressure. But you turned confinement into strategy. You learned how to move in silence, how to stretch a single opportunity into an empire. They thought they were burying you. They didn't realize they were planting you. Every cage they built became another blueprint for your breakthrough. Imagine this: a lion locked behind bars, not pacing, not panicking, just watching, measuring, memorizing every sound, every weakness in the steel, every human mistake. Then one day, the door isn't locked right. And that's all it takes. That's you. You didn't escape. You outgrew captivity. You studied every limitation until it couldn't contain you anymore. They used control as a weapon. You turned it into a classroom. They said no to your freedom, not realizing you'd learned to build your own keys. You mastered survival inside small spaces, emotional ones, financial ones, social ones. You learned how to breathe where others suffocate. You learned how to move without noise, how to grow without validation. And when the time came to leave, you didn't crawl out. You walked out with the posture of someone who built something in there, something solid, something unshakable. Because power forged under pressure doesn't crumble when it's free. It multiplies. That's the part they never expected. They thought holding you back would humble you, but it only refined you. You turned their doubt into discipline, their silence into solitude, their rejection into research. You didn't just survive the cage, you studied its architecture, and now you design palaces from the same material they used to trap you. Every insult became a brick, every betrayal became cement, every delay became a doorway. You built a kingdom out of limitations, and now they beg for citizenship in the empire they mocked. Now, the same people who restricted your space are trying to enter it. The ones who once set rules now whisper your name like it carries weight. And it does, because you turned every loss into leverage. You didn't rebel against the system, you rewired it. They said you couldn't win inside their framework, so you built your own, higher, stronger, unreachable. You flipped the script and made oppression your origin story. They'll call it luck. They'll say you changed. But you didn't. You just finally stopped asking for permission in a world that was never going to give it. You realized no one can cage a mind that's already seen freedom. You became proof that control is an illusion, that power doesn't come from domination, it comes from direction. Now they stare through the same bars they once hid behind, watching you sit where their fear built walls. And you don't need revenge. You don't need applause. The empire you built in silence is loud enough. You were never meant to escape the cage. You were meant to own it. Number 9. Their ending was your introduction. They thought they closed your chapter, not realizing they were just turning the page to your reign. Every villain's story has that moment, the part where they think they've won. They walk away smiling, convinced you're finished, certain they've written your ending. But here's the twist they never saw coming. Their victory scene was actually your opening act. The universe didn't take them out of your story as punishment. It removed them as preparation. They were never meant to make it to your next level because their energy couldn't survive the altitude. They called it an ending because that's all they could see. But you knew better. You understood that silence after chaos isn't loss, it's incubation. You were never destroyed, just recalibrated. They mistook the stillness for defeat, not realizing you were rebuilding behind the curtain. While they were celebrating your downfall, you were constructing your debut. The moment they left your life, your destiny exhaled. Their exit wasn't betrayal, it was clearance. The universe was decluttering your path, removing distractions disguised as loyalty. The very people who thought they were burying your future were actually fertilizing it. Their collapse wasn't tragic, it was strategic. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence, because every time someone walked away, a door opened exactly where you needed it. Every ending synced perfectly with a new beginning that demanded more of you and less of them. Imagine this, a movie scene where the camera pans away from those who fall apart and slowly zooms in on the one character still standing, quiet, composed, changed. That's you, the one left in the aftermath. Not broken, rewritten. Their story had to crumble so yours could begin without compromise. And when you finally stepped back into the light, you didn't even need revenge. You were too busy becoming everything they said you'd never be. They whisper now, pretending they don't notice the glow, pretending your success doesn't sting, but it does, because deep down, they remember the version of you they tried to kill. And it's haunting them that you're still here, stronger, sharper, untouchable. They're watching the sequel of a story they thought was over, realizing too late that they were just side characters in your rise. They weren't removed from your path, they expired from your vibration. That's how karma works for the chosen. It doesn't always strike with fire and thunder. Sometimes it just lets people self-destruct in the same trap they built for you. They fall by their own design, and when the dust clears, you're still standing, calm as ever, like nothing happened. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. So don't mourn the losses. Don't chase closure from ghosts. Their ending was never your loss. It was your introduction. You were meant to rise in their absence, not their approval. The curtain fell on their act the moment yours began. And now, you're not just part of the story. You are the story. Number 10. You turned every loss into lore. They thought they broke you. Instead, they wrote your legend. Every scar you carry has a story, and every story has a lesson written in fire. They saw pain, you saw blueprint. They saw endings, you saw evolution. While others ran from failure like it was poison, you swallowed it whole and turned it into power. That's why your name lingers in their mouths now, not as gossip, but as myth. Because you did what most people can't. You made your suffering sacred. Imagine this. The same battlefield where you bled is now the monument where others come to study your endurance. The heartbreak that almost erased you, that became your rebirth scene, the humiliation they laughed at. That was your initiation. Every tear was an ingredient in the empire you now stand on. They don't realize your glow wasn't gifted. It was forged in the dark, where no one clapped, where you taught yourself how to breathe through collapse. You don't heal and hide, you heal and highlight. They talk about your strength now like it's some mysterious trait, but there's nothing mystical about it. You simply refused to stay broken. You turned grief into grit. You turned silence into scripture. You turned rejection into resurrection. Every downfall became another chapter in your mythology. They can't laugh at you anymore because you made your pain too poetic to mock. You are the living proof that survival is art. You didn't escape the fire. You mastered its rhythm. You learned to dance in it, to draw symbols in its smoke, to turn what was supposed to destroy you into the very reason you can't be destroyed again. You're no longer explaining your scars. You're wearing them like royal armor. Legends aren't born from ease. They're sculpted from ruin. Let them study your story like it's folklore. Let them quote your comebacks like scripture, because you've become the cautionary tale for the weak and the battle cry for the broken. Every loss you endured didn't end you. It crowned you. You didn't just survive the wreckage, you built a throne from it. Now when they speak your name, it carries weight, not pity, not disbelief, reverence, because you are not a memory of pain, you are the monument of transformation. They tried to end your story. Instead, they gave it meaning. You turned every loss into lore, and now even your ghosts bow when they hear your name. Number 11. You don't seek revenge. You let time do the talking. You don't destroy your enemies. You outlast their relevance. Revenge is a language for the desperate. You don't speak it anymore. You learned that silence hits harder than any retaliation ever could. You don't waste energy proving a point when existence itself has already proven it. You didn't plot payback. You perfected peace. While they were busy rehearsing explanations for their betrayal, you were mastering detachment. That's what terrifies them. You're calm. You're quiet. The fact that you moved on without leaving a single fingerprint of bitterness. You don't fight back. You disappear so completely that your absence becomes the punishment. They keep waiting for your reaction, some grand explosion, some proof they got under your skin. But you've evolved beyond theatrics. Time became your weapon, not by design, but by discipline. You understood what they didn't. That what's done in cruelty eventually collapses under its own weight. You never had to lift a finger. Gravity handled it. Imagine this, a chessboard where every move they made to trap you became their downfall, not because you fought back, but because you stayed still. That's how time works for the aligned. It doesn't rush, it reveals. You don't chase revenge because the universe doesn't need your help balancing scales. It's already setting the stage. You're just the one who learned to sit in silence and watch karma rehearse. They think you've gone soft. You haven't. You've gone sovereign. You've traded rage for rhythm. You've stopped seeking validation from chaos and started trusting the quiet rhythm of justice unfolding. They'll see it eventually, Dundee, the slow unraveling of everything they built on deceit. You won't say a word. You won't even watch. Because true revenge isn't about being seen winning. It's about being too far ahead to notice who's losing. You didn't let time heal wounds. You let it expose the ones who caused them. And now, years later, they remember your name, not with pride, but with pulse-quickening regret. because every rumor they spread became their reputation. Every time they underestimated you, time kept score. The universe doesn't forget. It just waits for silence, so you stay poised, you stay grounded, you let peace do what anger never could, destroy without effort. The best revenge was never loud, it was always elegance. You didn't clap back, you evolved so far they can't hear the echo. Number 12. Your story became their warning. They whispered your name as gossip, now they speak it as gospel. There was a time when your pain was entertainment. They sat around tables dissecting your downfall, convinced you'd never rise again. They spoke your name like a rumor, casual, careless, confident that you'd stay beneath them. But time, as always, had other plans. The same story they mocked became a manual on what happens when you try to destroy someone chosen by alignment. Your story became their warning label. Imagine this: the person they underestimated now lives rent-free in their caution. Every decision they make carries a faint echo of your name. You've become the reminder they never asked for. This is what happens when you play with someone protected by purpose. You didn't threaten them, your evolution did. Your resilience turned prophetic. Every loss they laughed at became foreshadowing. Every rumor became irony. They can't even tell your story without exposing their part in it. Your silence became scripture. Your scars became sermons. They used to call you dramatic for feeling deeply. Now they quote your wisdom like it's holy. They used to call you paranoid for sensing betrayal. Now they watch their own backs. You're not just proof that survival is possible. You're proof that justice has perfect timing. You've gone from victim to vision, from lesson learned to legend repeated. They can't erase you because you're no longer a person to them. You're a phenomenon, a symbol of what happens when arrogance underestimates awareness, when envy picks a fight with peace, when lies collide with time. They used to mock your name. Now they warn others not to cross it. You became the story they tell to remind each other where betrayal leads. You became the prophecy they fulfilled. By trying to destroy you, they built your monument. There's a chill in their laughter now, a hesitation in their words, because they've realized that what they did to you wasn't the end. It was the beginning of their undoing. You've become both legend and lesson, myth and memory, the one they whisper about when the room goes quiet. And that's how every chosen story ends. Not with revenge, not with noise, but with reverence. They whispered your name as gossip. Now they speak it as gospel.